and it depends on the healthcare worker. How much is the healthcare worker willing to offer? It depends on, you have to, the healthcare worker and the disabled person have to get to know each other first.
So it's very much a bonding of you and the healthcare worker. Have you had many? I guess you have had many healthcare workers through your time.
Oh yeah, some good, some bad, some in between.
So how good is Terry?
Well, I'll put it to you this way: we've had, what is it, 3 or 4 people that stop us and think we're brothers.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great bond.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Terry. What's it like?
It's an experience. I mean, when I first got with Toppy, he was talking about, he wanted to go out and do things. And I told Toppy one day, actually I told my case manager, I said, if there ever comes an opportunity for me to get on full time with Toppy, I said, I want it. She's like, why? I said, well, Toppy's like me in a way. I said, I don't like sitting still. I said, I like being out, in the community, being out and around. And I got with Toppy and started back with him. And I told him one day, I said, Toppy, I said, if you want to do something, I said, let's do it. I said, I don't like sitting around. I said, I want to get out and go. Yeah. So ever since then, me and Toppy, plans, at least 3 to 5 days to go out and do stuff in the community.
Toppy, how do you make a living?
For me, I found that by having a disability and having to manage my life with that disability has become more or less a non-paying career. But on top of managing my disability with the help of Terry and about 6 or 8 other people, because I'm like Toppy Incorporated myself, but I try to get out and do things, and as well as try to keep my day as normal as possible.
Well, from a personal standpoint, let me tell you, you have my admiration. I think it's marvelous the way you're able to move around and to make your contacts and do what you're doing. I want to make sure before we close that everybody knows if they want to contact you and talk to you about disabilities, or they want to talk to you about whatever might be on their heart or mind, they can get you in Facebook. Tell them.
Yeah. Well, if I can get you directed to pop-up messages under my name, there you go, it's right at the bottom. tcarter371 at AOL.com, or look up Toppy Carter on Facebook.
Okay, they can contact you there.
Yeah.
And Terry, are you available for weekend consultations or something of that nature?
They can reach me through Facebook, and I'll get back in touch with them because, like I said, during Monday through Friday, I'm, leading a pretty productive career with Toppy here. And then on the weekends, I may have to work it around my schedule, but they can catch me through Facebook, and we'll work out and see what we can do from there.
I want to thank both of you for being on the program, and what I'd very much like to do is I'll catch up with you in the near future and see if we've made any progress, how you're doing, and we'll just take it from there. Thank you for being with me.
Okay, thank you.
The oil leak that BP is supposedly taking full responsibility for is much worse than we think. And ever since it happened, always now, I do understand that since it happened, even now we're positive attitude and believing that we're going to overcome it, and we certainly hope we are. But there comes a time when we have to recognize that all it takes to face our disaster is for good men to do nothing. And while we care anything about our future, this is the time to act. The oil leak has been leaking for a long time. Even more important, whatever direction actually comes from the heart, the problem is going with all our heart is not necessarily the answer to some statistics or back to our personal action. I knew in my heart the first time I saw the national broadcast of the oil leak that it was much worse than we were led to believe. And BP was the first to tell us that it was as bad as it looked. My inner antennas went up with saying it's much worse than it looks. Not only is it bad, we're being told that it's not bad and it's wrong. It is bad. Now I hear our initial fears are even worse. And now we need to blame BP for the lack of understanding that we've been given the information of our own ludicrousness. I point out blatantly that BP and anyone either may fail us, whatever we want us to think, or if we choose to simply accept whatever it is without investigating its authenticity, but it's our fault, not theirs, for believing a lie and thinking everything is okay. My heart first told me when I saw the animals were about to be affected, even killed, in untold numbers, that the oil was coming out of the pipe and we'd be in trouble. The color alone told us that we were not part of the ocean. Should it not be the presence of animals that were swimming in the water and trying to breathe the air? Imagine sitting in your living room watching TV and suddenly being called to a formal dinner, or walking in the grocery store and having an air bubble suddenly burst in your mouth out of nowhere of oil going down your throat and into your insides. Without warning, the bubble comes through and explodes in your mouth. Swallowing it doesn't kill you, it certainly makes you desperately ill. That's what's happening to those who live in the sea right now, or even depend on it for living, as we all do depend on the sea for our living. Well, certainly not many are dying, so you say. Well, how many is killing? What kind? Among what number, how many die doesn't matter. Largest whales live in the minuscule penguin that you and I can hardly see. Can those plankton live through the oil? What other finish can you animals exist that you and I don't know that are now swallowing oil instead of oxygen? How many have to die to make this a tragedy? 2? 6? 12? How many have died already? Of course, on the first day of the leak, hundreds, thousands after that. I had a housewife come into my office the other day, and she wanted to sit down for counseling. Suddenly she broke out crying. I said to her, "What's the matter with you?" She said, "I just saw on TV a pelican that was filled with oil who was being treated by a vet. They were trying to save him, and he died." Those of us who have worked in broadcasting have estimated that working in the estimates of statistics, if I get a letter from a listener of my radio program, I can estimate there are probably about 200 listeners. If I receive a letter from the TV program, probably 400 listeners. Every reasonable understanding of the TV program, at least 30 readers for every response to my newspaper article. And I would say that we can estimate for every pelican you see on TV fighting for his life bathed in oil, there are probably 500 out there you will never see that will die before we can reach them. I don't have any statistics, but my heart says that our animals, our sea animals, and our entire marsh is dying in multitudes. My heart also tells me that their own sake, in supplying us with statistics about the amount of oil leaking, are downplaying the effect and the results of what is really happening to our world because of this tragedy. And to not call it an ongoing tragedy is to downplay it too much. 1 million of those gallons have been leaking into our ocean since day one. Millions of sea creatures, birds, and other animals are being killed. Every day that oil leak continues, and will for many months, even years to come. Our oceans are already dangerously polluted. Local businesses and private enterprise will go out of business soon. Our food and gas will become scarce and controlled by the government, with prices skyrocketing in no time. Many foods, since we extract from the sea, will not be available to us, both unsafe and dead and full of oil. Our future in the world we've known in this great country will change and never be the same. Fact is, I could have written this article and talked of this speech the first day that I saw the live broadcast of the oil leak and announcements of the spill, because my heart issued those very warnings to myself that I now share with you about 60 days later. Why did I not write or talk about it immediately? Because in my own naivety, I believed what BP was telling us when they said they would soon have it under control. I thought, and they still say, that they care about this tragedy as much as I do. So what do? We stop the leak. We listen to what's going on and tell the truth. We find people capable of giving specific and great help, no matter what it costs. All resources from any country offering help should be solicited and accepted, and everything must be diverted to the casualty before it gets worse, because I guarantee you, it will get worse. Let me define the greatest tragedy coming. Businesses and people will turn to the government for money and answers. The government will take control of businesses and agencies and be responsible for making most of the important decisions. And we as a people will give up the power to control our own future and turn it over to the government for the sake of money. They do now. They will later. And we will have lost our democracy. Thank you for watching.